Hello, this is David Rovix, and you are listening to the fifth of seven history and song broadcasts that I'm doing, and this one is pretty much focused on the 2004 to 2009 period, although this first song I think actually took place in 2003. But anyway, it's we're of course is focusing on that period, and my songwriting about it. We are talking a lot about the occupation in Iraq, among other subjects. And this first song is about after the Palestine Hotel in Baghdad was shelled by the U.S. military, and a number of journalists and others were killed. Basically, lots of responsibility was denied, and at the time, the right-wing government of Spain was part of the occupation of Iraq, and soon they were out of power. But after the bombing of the Madrid subways and the remarkable reaction of the Spanish people by electing an anti-war government in response to that, after the killing of José Couso and other journalists, and he was a Spanish journalist, he and I think his Ukrainian cameraman and others were killed in the Palestine Hotel, and the Prime Minister of Spain was giving his speech, and basically all the journalists walked out.
The battle had been raging for how long it's hard to say. We were there to tell the story of the slaughter come what may. We didn't hide behind the lines, we reported on the crimes for BBC, Telemundo, and the Sunday Times. They said we were in danger, bearing witness to the war. A half dozen had just been killed in the days before. Then came the day they bombed Jazeera and Abu Dhabi TV as well. At the same time they took aim and shelled the Palestine Hotel. 4 journalists were murdered in a single day. And then our own Prime Minister, Aznar, was to say, there will be no investigation. Such a thing would not make sense. It was just a tragic accident. So at his next press conference, Aznar approached the podium to give a national address. Gathered all around him, the men and women of the press. He opened his mouth, we put our cameras on the floor, dropped our notebooks, turned our backs, and walked right out the door. We marched down the street and left our cameras where they lay. 'Cause all the news that's fit to mention is there is no news today. We were not embedded in your networked play-by-play. We were just reporters, reporting day by day. We were trying to do our jobs, bring the Baghdad street, whether it was victory, massacre, or defeat. Those 3 missiles told a story that's not hard to surmise. The army has decided what's good for the global public's eyes. These missiles weren't coincidence, of this there is no doubt. And on that April afternoon, asesinos we did shout. We marched down the street, left our cameras where they lay. 'Cause all the news that's fit to mention is there is no news today. What happens to the message when the messenger is shelled? What happens to a nation that says it's just as well? What happens when the embeds are the last ones left alive? Is this your brave new world in which our liberty shall thrive? We marched down the street, left our cameras where they lay. 'Cause all the news that's fit to mention is there is no news today.
So, of course, we're just to some extent skipping around subject-wise and sticking with dates. And one of the things that happened in 2004 was Atif Rafay and Sebastian Burns were convicted I think wrongly convicted from some very questionable legal maneuvers and police tactics. In the murder of Atif Rafay's parents, and both men are still in prison today.
Atif and Sebastian lived in Vancouver. That's where they were from. Atif's family moved to the USA, and Sebastian thought he'd come. They both went off to college, Atif to Cornell. What would happen at the end of his freshman year, who on earth could foretell? Atif and Sebastian went to a movie and to get some food to eat. Then they drove back home to that suburban Bellevue street. Inside what they saw was far too much to understand, that such acts could be carried out by a human hand. Atif's parents had been bludgeoned. Blood and brains were everywhere. And beneath the shawl upon his mother's matted hair, they asked the skies above, how could such a thing be done? Then the two boys picked up the phone and they called 911. Atif's father, he had enemies who wanted him dead, it seems. But from the time the cops arrived upon this gruesome scene, the only suspects they considered were Sebastian and Atif. They questioned them for days amidst their shock and disbelief. Without a shred of evidence, they blamed them for this crime, though there were witnesses to prove that they were elsewhere at the time. They had gone across the bridge to Seattle's downtown core, and someone else's DNA was found amidst the blood upon the floor. Whose DNA was that? The Bellevue cops didn't care, though Atif's father's friend would soon have his awful fate to share. Just like Atif's dad, he had a contract on his head, and a few scant years later, he also turned up dead. The cops didn't have the evidence, so they wiretapped a session with undercover thugs to scare up a confession. The stories didn't match up. The kids were terrified. They lied. So the cops just changed their story to make it match the way the family died. The judge and prosecution, just like the cops, they had no shame, and entrapment and coercion was the name of this railroad game. The trial was a sham, and the jury took the bait, and now Atif and Sebastian are living out their fate, serving up their lives in maximum security, while the real killers are somewhere running free. Some might call this justice. I don't know about you. I call it putting innocent men in prison for a crime they didn't do.
And in 2004, they started building the apartheid wall, the separation barrier in the West Bank in Palestine, which is, of course, a barrier that divides half the West Bank from itself and is not at all on the border of anything. And here's a song about that.
They're building a wall between friends, a wall that justifies any means for their ends, a wall between Semites, rich and poor, brothers and sisters from not so long before, many feet thick and 20 feet high. No one can look through it and into the eye of a person you might know, to whom you might confide. Now just a stranger on the other side. They're building a wall between water and land, so we can eat fruit, they can eat sand. A wall to make sure that our orchards will grow and our kids can get fat and not need to know of the cities in ruins and the children in fear that your fathers and brothers in tanks might be near. A wall to keep quiet, that which you fear most, so you don't have to listen to your grandfather's ghost. They're building a wall between future and past, a wall to keep distant the chambers of gas from the bulldozers, gunships, and the tears of a child. Dignity, love, and honor defiled, to remove reality from your facts on the ground. A wall to keep distant the terrible sound of the houses that crumble and the children that die. A wall to keep separate the truth from the lie. They're building a wall, and at such a cost. Land, money, and safety, and all the lives lost. A wall made of brick, but bricks can be broken when the people of Zion have finally awoken and said no more walls, no more refugees, no more keeping people upon their knees. And then the history books will someday recall, before apartheid was ended, they were building a wall.
And 2004 was, of course, the first, I guess you could call it the first in this series, Battle of Fallujah, during which time much of the once beautiful city of mosques was destroyed.
Maybe you'll hear about me when you watch the evening news. So I write this letter for you, my friends, the truth then you may choose. I had a good time at Oxford, and the world I did roam. When my studies were finished, then I went back home. All I wanted were good things, land and liberty, and all the sorts of things we learned at the university. I'm not a fan of dictatorships. I'd rather say live and let live. But for those who threaten my family, there's nothing I won't give. I will fight for my country. I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand. When you break down the doors of my neighbors, when you say that might makes right, when you say you're looking for terrorists in their bedrooms late at night, when you torture my brother at gunpoint, on his head a canvas sack, all I can say to you, soldier, is you'd best watch your back. I will fight for my country. I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand.
Yeah. See, I'ma fight for my country, though I hate the war, but I deplore even more when they take me for. Think about where you live, how you typically be when the bombs start falling in the middle of the street. It ain't difficult to see what side to choose. With all the lies they use, can't hide the truth. White lies from these white guys in the White House. Might as well wear white sheets while they wipe out. I mean, white out all opposition. And bomb call the people into submission. He's got a Bible, he's down with Jesus Christ. He likes blacks, just ask for the leaves of rights. It's all evil lies in a weak disguise. See the signs, read in between the lines. You wanna save America, I'll bring you support. Arrest the president and bring him to court. Charge him and his puppeters of war crimes. And start paying reparations of all kinds. You think what I'm telling you to do is extreme, but if you're living for Fallujah, it'd be a beautiful dream. So I hold my tears and my hopes and fears when you bomb our country and attack our town. Don't be surprised when the whole world cheers to see another Black Hawk down, motherfucker.
When you come with your tanks on our city streets and you say these streets are yours, when you say you'll rebuild us with bombers and oil tankers on our shores, when you've gunned down my child in Fallujah, you needn't wonder why. I look at you through the blades of your copter and say it's a good day to die. I will fight for my country. I'll defend this land. I'll stare at the whites of your soldiers' eyes with this Kalashnikov in my hand. With this Kalashnikov in my hand. Helicopter missiles launch, the ground rumbles, apartment complex shakes just before it crumbles. Children scream and die, wrong time, wrong place. A woman wears a shawl that hides a scar upon her face. A boy looks through a pool of blood, prays to see the day when the armies of the infidels will once more go away. And everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. City swelters in the heat. 1,000 ghosts are weeping amid the pockmarked street. No food in the market, you can't read grain that you can't sow. A no man's land, the Red Cross doesn't dare to go. A soldier shoots at everything, acting like the master race, all the while wondering what he's doing in this place, where everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. Where everything's gone wrong. Death squads roam the alleys, looking for the eye of anyone who dares to say a lie is just a lie. The torturers are torturing in a prison cell, flushing Korans down the toilet, saying all praise be to Shell. And everybody's just waiting for the fall outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall. A sound that lets you know you're somewhere in Iraq. Surgeons with no medicine wonder what to do and ask how things might be if the outside world knew. And in Ivory Tower in Texas, they're toasting the new country far away from here, where everybody's just waiting for the ball outside the green zone, through the machine gun turrets on the other side of the wall.
And then during the same year, 2004, as the insurrection in Iraq was growing and all the Americans were hiding behind turrets in the green zone, the torture scandal in Abu Ghraib came to attention. And here's a song about that. And I'll just also mention that this chat room is wonderfully active. If anybody else in the world cares to join it, just look for the little green chat bubble on the lower right of your screen if you're on Spreaker.
We'll get rid of the dictator, rebuild your country, make sure all your kids go to school. We'll clean up the cities, get the sewage plants running, institute parliamentary rule. We'll bring you autonomy, senators and judges, and a shiny new blue banner. We'll bring you pride and prosperity, food in your bellies, in every home a phone, fax, and scanner. After we torture our prisoners, we'll bring you decades of peace, spiritual release, free religious expression. You can say what you want in the papers you run. We'll never force a confession. After we torture our prisoners, the oil will flow just where it should go, across the desert and into the sea. You'll thank your God and the CIA that finally you are free. After we torture our prisoners, you'll all be safe with us to protect you and keep you out of harm's way. You'll thank creation and your liberation from the dark into a new day. After we torture our prisoners, you can all jump for joy, each girl and boy, and look boldly into the distance. You'll be so happy for all that we've done, for such invaluable assistance. After we torture our prisoners, you won't have to worry about tyrants and bullies now that you have sovereignty. You can hold your head high, kiss Saddam goodbye, say hello to democracy. After we torture our prisoners, after we torture our prisoners. He got off the plane, looked at no one, walked down the tarmac in the direction of nowhere, followed the sun as it was setting, glad to be done with all the bloodletting. There were no banners for the proud and the few, just workers in airports that do what they do. Fuel up the planes, unload the bags, along with the coffins all covered in flags. When Johnny came marching home, the town he was from was a dead little place, so he looked for a job somewhere off base. In the city of pawn shops, hotels and bars, gas stations, strip clubs, highways and cars, he went to a dive, ordered a beer, said turn the music up loud, so it's all that I hear. Try to rewind, turn back the years, stop the explosions between my ears. all shit and the beer was cheap. Besides, there was no other way he could sleep. Still the screams and the guns would wake him at night. He was always on edge and ready to fight. When he closed his eyes, he would just see the face of a woman he killed in some faraway place. Over and over, the white of her eye, and her final and terrified cry. When Johnny came marching home. Joints and a thump in the heart. The doctor just told him it's all in his head, but he couldn't stop drinking or get out of bed. And with no place to go but the wrong way, it was a shock to his ears when he heard himself say over and over to anyone within range, "Hey mister, can you spare some change?" When Johnny came marching home.
And of course, one of those folks that did not come marching home and end up on the streets of Portland is Casey Sheehan, who was killed pretty early on in the occupation of Iraq, 2004, and then 2005 his mother Cindy started up a wonderful occupation herself of land near Bush's Ranch in Texas.
Casey was a good boy. He treated people well. His mama loved him. Anyone could tell. She'd send him off to school, pack his lunch with care, and when he came back home she hugged him with her fingers in his hair. Cindy, she loved Casey, and when all is said and done, she is every mother, and he was every mother's son. Casey was a little older. He spent his time each week in that church in Vacaville, in the service of the meek, in the service of his city, in the service of the Lord, with his mama in the pews, all the time they could afford. If their love alone could save us, then the world would be one. She is every mother, and he was every mother's son. Was where he'd someday be, so some folks were surprised. When he joined the army, the recruiter told him he didn't have to fight. Cindy hoped this was the case and prayed for him every night. That was before they sent him to the desert with a gun. She is every mother, and he was every mother's son. His truck had no armor, and when it came under fire, it and half the soldiers in it became a funeral pyre. Cindy, she was sleeping the moment Casey died, and she knew she'd never see him standing by her side. There was no consolation, no safe place she could run. She is every mother, and he was every mother's son. The president, he told her, he died for a noble cause. Now Cindy's wondering exactly what that was, 'cause they never found the weapons. And now that Casey's gone, it seems that oil is the game, and Casey was the pawn. Cindy's got some questions, yes, and so does everyone. She is every mother, and he was every mother's son.
Of course, on the sort of theoretically slightly bright side, in 2005, New York University banned Coca-Cola products from their campus because of Coca-Cola's record of human rights abuses in places like Colombia.
Coke came to Colombia, seeking lower wages. They got just what they came for, but as we turn the pages, we find the workers do not like the sound of their children's hungry cries. So they said, we'll join the union. They began to organize. So Coke called up a terrorist group called the AUC. Said, we've got some problems at the factory. The AUC went to the plant, killed 2 union men, told the rest, you leave the union or we'll be back again. Well, Coke did not complain about this dirty deed. Why give workers higher wages when Coke is all they really need? They phoned the AUC, said thanks, without you we'd go broke. And to show our appreciation, here's 100 cases of Coke. The baby drinks it in his bottle and the water ain't no good. The dog drinks it, but he don't know if he should. Some folks say it's the nectar of the gods, but Coke is the drink of the death squads. Coke is the drink of the death squads. Well, these workers wouldn't take this situation lying down. Some went up to Georgia, said, look what's happened to our town. You American workers get downsized, as for us we just get shot. And those of us who live, our teeth begin to rot. 'Cause the baby drinks it in his bottle and the water ain't no good. The dog drinks it, but he don't know if he should. Some folks say it's the nectar of the gods, but Coke is the drink of the death squads. Coke is the drink of the death squads. Well, now that's the situation. What are you gonna do? 'Cause the death squads run Colombia and they're paid by me and you. We can let Coke rule the world, see what future that will bring. Or we can drink juice and smash the state. Now that's the real thing. 'Cause the baby drinks it in his bottle and the water ain't no good. The dog drinks it, but he don't know if he should. Some folks say it's the nectar of the gods, but Coke is the drink of the death squads. Coke is the drink of the death squads.
And then, of course, there's another upside to the past, that particularly little period of history that we're focusing on here, recent history, which is, of course, the fact that that marriage equality started becoming a reality in so many different states of the U.S. and countries around the world. In 2004, it was legalized in Massachusetts.
I know a man, he has brown eyes. Most mornings he gets up around sunrise. He likes to put butter on just about everything. He likes to walk in the park, listen to the birds sing. I know a man, he has 2 gorgeous kids. He likes to take them on trips like his father did. At the end of the day, they all come over to my place, where we talk about school and what happened on MySpace. I know a man, he plays basketball. He's about 5 feet, 10 inches tall. He tries to grow flowers, they usually don't bloom. He's got a picture of Elvis on the door to his room. I know a man, he thinks life is good and everything will be fine, as he knows that it should. And the eyes of the people and the eyes of the law would soon be open to the things that he saw. I know a man with a beautiful family who knows that someday right here in this society we'll all walk taller and fences will mend, when I can say proudly, this is my husband. I know a man.
And it was right around this time, a couple weeks from now in 2004, that 200,000 people or so lost their lives.
What do you say to someone who's just lost everything? Eventually, things might be okay. As he's standing there with all that's left of life, before the ocean rose and took it all away. I was at the mosque, I wasn't on the shore. I guess it was my lucky day. And when I got back home, there was no one there. The ocean rose and took them all away. We were fighting for independence. That's all I was thinking yesterday. Now all I'm thinking is we're on an island, and the ocean rose and took it all big trees all were cut, and this is how we all had to pay. Maybe Mr. Ford was on vacation in Thailand when the ocean rose and took it all away. If this had happened in Kyoto or San Francisco, I wonder what they'd say. But this ain't New York, it's just Aceh, where the ocean rose and took it all away.
And then there was another storm the following year.
Everybody knew that it could happen. The likelihood was clear, the future was coming. And now it's here. They had to fix the levees, 'cause otherwise they'd break. On one side was the city, above it was the lake. It was in the daily papers, in bold letters was the writ. What would happen when the big one hit? But every year they cut the funding just a little more, so they could give it to the army to fight their oil war. National Geographic and the Times-Picayune, they forecast the apocalypse, said it was coming soon. Preparations must be made, they said, Now is the time. It was years ago they shouted, inaction was a crime. They said the dikes must be improved and the wetlands must be saved. But Washington decided instead they should be paved. 'Cause laws were more important than people's lives. So put some gold dust in your eyes and hope no storm arrives. New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. Years and years of warning, no evacuation plan. It was just if the waters rose. Get out if you can. There were no buses. No one chartered any trains. There was no plan to rescue all of those who would remain. All the people with no money, all the people with no wheels, all of those who couldn't hotwire one that they could steal. Thousands and thousands of people abandoned by the state, abandoned by their country, just left to meet their fate. New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. Destitute who couldn't get away. And the world will remember those sad and awful days when people shouted from their houses, dying on their roofs. When people came to find them, they were turned back by the troops. They died there with no water, they died there in the heat. They were shot down by the soldiers for trying to find some food to eat. New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. Now the city is in ruins, a massive toxic sea scattered through the nation. 500,000 refugees, here we are, in the richest country on the earth, where the color of your skin determines what your life is worth, where oil is the king, where global warming is ignored, where the very end of life is the place we're heading towards, where it's more than just a metaphor, the flooding of the dike. And if we don't stop this madness, the whole world will be like New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New
And for comic relief, during that same year in 2005, Paul Wolfowitz, the former Trotskyist back in the 70s, who later became a neocon, which is a strangely common trajectory for some reason, he went from being the chief person in charge of the disastrous occupation of Iraq to running the World Bank, which seemed like a perfect transition to any of us involved in the anti-capitalist movement who understand that free trade only happens at the point of a gun.
He's done giving orders to generals. He's moved to another sphere. He's through with ordering the tanks to kill. He's gonna do something different this year. He's moving from Virginia to Washington with a neocon to thank. He's through with the War Department, now he's gonna run the World Bank. He said he'd be true to the mission, that hunger and want should end. And as all Afghans know, he's a man of his word, on that we can't depend. So be prepared for prosperity, it's coming to your door. Cause there will be no poverty once we kill off all the poor. Last week he was bombing cities, now he's a financier. Pay your debts or say goodbye, Paul Wolfowitz is here. He'll bring the world things it needs, such as nuclear power
giant jams and hamburgers. No doubt he's a man of the hour. He's proven it over and over with finesse and aplomb. And for those who disagree, well, then he's got the bomb. Last week he was bombing cities, now he's a financier. Pay your debts or say goodbye, Paul Wolfowitz is here. He's a real American, so he must know best. He'll lead us to glory on this many can test. He'll lead us to freedom, and we will be so glad. Just like those shoppers in that market in downtown Baghdad. Last week he was bombing cities, now he's a financier. Pay your debts or say goodbye, Paul Wolfowitz is here.
And around the same time, of course, he was probably very much involved, along with others, in stealing the 2004 election in the United States. Of course, it probably would not have made any difference in terms of foreign policy if John Kerry had won, but John Kerry did, in fact, win that election, except for corruption.
Lined up in a row, time to turn on the camera, start the show. They kiss babies with a tie, tried every soundbite that might fly. But be they congressmen or preachers, the only ones who made the features were those who knew their station. Is that a man or a corporation? Spam who won that round went on to the big buck battleground. They bought some ads, they bought some more. They got freebies by the score. Hired thugs went door to door, especially if you're black or poor. Said your vote might be against the law. Don't tell me the deal is raw. We had an election, it ain't no lie. It was the best one money could buy. Reported every word uttered by these two old birds as if their tongues were heaven sent. They didn't tell us what was meant, no voting record to analyze. And watch as they feign surprise when history proves to us again the thieving crooks who are these men. We had an election, it ain't no lie. It was the best one money could buy. Not a word from those dirty commie peacenik nerds. There will be debates, slogans will fly, but only rich men need apply. There's only room up there for two, Tweedledee and Tweedledoo. Uncounted ballots will litter the floor. This banana Republican class war. We had an election, it ain't no lie. It was the best one money could buy. Said and done, the pundits will say democracy won. Some will cry into their socks. Some will sit and watch more Fox, where scandals, wars, and desperation are all the fault of the United Nations, while those who drill the oil, make the tanks, laugh out loud all the way to the banks. We had an election, it ain't no lie. It was the best one money could buy.
Of course, not long after that election was stolen, was one of the biggest groundswells of human protest activity in the history of the United States, which so many people seem to have forgotten about or not noticed at the time. But in 2006, May 2006, there were millions and millions of people all over the country protesting for the rights of the element of the working class here in the U.S. that is commonly referred to as illegal. And I wrote this song years before that at another protest for illegal, undocumented workers, and where the most common sign that all these Latin Americans, there are thousands of Latin Americans who were marching in New York along with some other people as well. What the most common sign you could see it was in English, and it just said, "Workers of the world, unite."
This song goes out, I guess, more now than ever to the Arab American community, but I wrote it more with Latin Americans in mind. Of course, so many folks are in the same boat, hopefully not soon facing indefinite detention for being immigrants. The clouds gather in your forests, drift to my desert town. I think of far-off places as the rain is coming down. You're bent down in the fields, picking fruit there from the vine, and it ends up on my table as it moves on down the line. The moon shines brightly in the night sky. The river flows from south to north. With the changing of the seasons, the birds migrate back and forth. They say that you can't come here, not in the light of day. Somebody has got plans for you. Starve at home or hide away. Will we open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal? Watch the giant as it falls. So much travels across these borders. So much is bought and sold. One way goes the gunships, the other comes the gold. Free trade is like a needle, drawing blood straight from your heart. The border's like a prison, keeping friends apart. Will we open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal? Watch the giant as it falls. Hear the stockholders cheering, the world's getting smaller. Hear the drowning child crying, why are the fences growing taller? Some whisper in the shadows, while others count the dollars. Some have suits and ties, others chains and collars. Will we open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal? Watch the giant as it falls. May these fortress walls come down. May we meet our sisters and our brothers, stand arm in arm there in the daylight, no longer fighting one another. Will we stand together, for therein lies our might? Will we understand these words? Workers of the world, unite. Will we open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal? Watch the giant as it falls. Open up the borders, tear down the prison walls, declare that no one is illegal. Watch the giant as it falls.
And I guess it was a couple months after those protests that another country was largely destroyed by another sub-imperial power.
2 soldiers had been captured. They'd crossed to the other side. 2 soldiers taken prisoner, several others died. This is how it started, so said the Jewish state. Forget about 96, 82, 67, 48. 2 soldiers taken hostage, and by the Sea of Galilee we must defend our borders, wherever they may be. We must defend our soldiers, wherever they're deployed. 2 of them are captured, 1 country is destroyed. Somewhere in Tel Aviv, generals drawing battle lines for the town where Jesus turned water into wine. On the 10-year anniversary of a massacre of children, they thought it was a good idea to massacre some children. Anyone in the South, I heard Ehud Olmert say, everyone's a target and may be killed today. And if your home has turned to rubble, it may be pulverized some more, 'cause 2 soldiers have been captured, and we gotta settle up the score. 100,000 homes leveled to the ground. Every olive branch on offer burned where it was found. Every chance at dialogue rejected right on cue. If you're gonna burn your bridges, you might as well bomb them too. They even bombed the prison where they used to torture fighters, where they had the dogs and leashes, cigarettes and lighters, where they were kept shackled, not allowed to stand, where they torched the forests, turned them into sand. And the entire world watches. A few thousand demonstrate. Governments take action, all too little or too late. All the telephones are ringing in case you couldn't read the signs. This is the IDF, and you're in the firing line. Condoleezza came to visit for about an hour. She thought it was a party, some kind of baby shower. She said these were the birth pangs of a brand new morn. But in the hospitals today, all the babies were stillborn. The stars and stripes among the ruins say where they were made, in case anybody wonders about all that military aid, in case anybody wonders about the mines around the farms, or why so many toddlers are missing legs and arms, or why so many of them ask exactly what was meant by wiping out their homes and then giving them a tent, or why if you ask them, who is Nasrallah, they'll tell you he's our leader, and we all are Hezbollah.
And a few months after that, my good friend Brad Will was in Oaxaca, Mexico, working with the, doing indie media work and filming and interviewing people and being there on the barricades with the teachers and the others in Oaxaca City who had taken over the city of Oaxaca.
I remember when we met, surrounded by police. Was a 1 block in the city where protest was allowed, and they were there to keep the peace. You said, hey, my name is Brad, and I think we surely will mess up these meetings. These jokers will remember us in this city on the hill. I'd see you at the rallies, guitar on your knee. The calm inside the storm, from Prague to San Francisco, Miami to D.C. We traveled on the same roads. You were everywhere, with a smile on your face, in the redwood forest to the streets of Tompkins Square. I'll go down to the water, and with the morning dew, I will watch the sunrise, and I'll smoke this joint for you. I can see you on a bicycle, reclaiming the street, digging up the asphalt to plant a bandit garden and grow some food to eat. I got an email from Quito. He said, you've got to see this place. Everyone is rising up. Come and see the future of this lovely human race. I'll go down to the water, and with the morning dew, I will watch the sunrise, and I'll smoke this joint for you. last time that I saw you, it was in New York town, sitting on a rooftop, talking about relationships and how to live them down. I heard you went down to Oaxaca, you joined the battle that was there. I see your picture in the paper with a bullet in your chest, in your eyes a distant stare. I'll go down to the water, and with the morning dew, I will watch the sunrise, and I'll smoke this joint for you. I'll go down to the water, and with the morning dew, I will watch the sunrise, and I'll smoke this joint for you.
And then a few months after that, well, actually, it was only a couple months after that, in December 2006, when the folks in Denmark were saying, folks associated with Ungdomshuset, with the sort of the main anarchist social center, punk rock social center in Denmark since 1982. Folks in Ungdomshuset were putting up posters all over the place and inviting Europeans to come and join the final battle, which was to be in December 2006, and of course didn't end up being then because the police decide when these things happen, and as it happened, they raided Ungdomshuset early one morning in the spring of 2007.
The House of the People was built in 1898. In Danish, that's Folketshuset. It was a union hall, first rate. In the 1970s, it fell into disrepair, and in 82 it got squatted by kids with spiky hair. It became a punk rock social center and left-wing to the core. Since I came to Copenhagen, I did shows there by the score. But the first time that I played there, I was nearly felled by the most disgusting microphone I have ever smelled. As I approached the mic stand and took in a deep breath, I was overpowered by the rotting stench of death. I managed to recover and make it through the set, but if there's a stinkier mic than that one, I haven't smelled it yet. Between anarchists and government, it's not an easy dance. And when a Christian sect bought Ungdomshuset, the state jumped at the chance. The cops landed on the roof in the middle of the night, filled the place with tear gas, and geared up for a fight. Masked workers came from Poland. They were taken to that spot. And guarded by police, they then destroyed the squat. But as the smoke was rising, I thought, well, at least, that really stinky microphone would be thankfully deceased. And as the smoke was rising, I thought about those nights, a room packed full of nose rings glittering in the lights, everybody smoking all kinds of different things, and the stinkiest mic through which I've ever tried to sing. There were weekly demonstrations with kids about to lose it. They said, "The government took our building. Give us a new Ungdomshuset." There were protests. There were riots. There were burning barricades. There were politicians looking on at the mess they'd made. 30 squatters were in prison, and when I was back in town, we went there to visit. At the edge of Copenhagen, I got on the sound truck, and I began to strum, and I was suddenly accosted by the smell of someone's bum. It was then I realized, without a single doubt, that microphone had been rescued. Someone had gotten it out. Here it was before me, a reminder of the past, before cops and helicopters came and filled the place with gas. After quite a lot of struggle, the kids got another squat. And the punks are back in Denmark, whether you like it or not. It's a movement that inspired folks, wherever they may be found. For example, in Malmö, just across the Sound, where someone opened a museum to recall struggles far and near, where sitting on a shelf, I observed with cheer a thing so noxious and repulsive that it took my breath away. The world's most offensive microphone was now Exhibit A. That mic had been retired and was now beyond rebuke. After years of service amid the cigarettes and puke, And it should surely have a place, perhaps you feel the same, if someday someone opens the Punk Rock Hall of Fame.
And then we have, I guess it was just a few months after that the global financial crisis occurred, which probably was unrelated to the police raid of Ungdomshuset. But in any case, that was the timeline. And here's a song I just wrote quite recently about how Iceland dealt with their part of the global financial crisis. Actually, in Jack's, I recorded this originally in Jack's guest room there, who's on the in the chat room there, and then made it into a more professional recording at Big Red Studio, not far from here in Portland, Oregon.
Iceland is an island with 500,000 or so Vikings, mostly known for volcanoes, hot springs, and fishing. Known for its welfare state, for being good and socialistic. Certainly not known for being corrupt or nepotistic, but in the USA and Europe, when they were deregulating banks, Iceland's politicians took bribes and joined their ranks. Soon you had a situation one would think just couldn't be. A bank whose debt was worth 10 times the country's GDP. When Wall Street imploded, sure enough it spread. Banks all over the world were floating in the red. All over the world, governments made the plan to cut spending and raise taxes on the working woman and working man. The banks were bailed out while the people had to pay. But in Iceland people thought there must be a better way. And the earth stood still a moment. Fear was struck in every toff when Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers. When Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. Folks were in the streets in Reykjavik and just couldn't be ignored. They said this is a debt we Icelanders can't afford. Let's guarantee deposits of all our people, yes indeed. But as for all the speculators motivated by their greed to make really dumb investments, to them Iceland said good luck. Sorry for your losses, but we don't really give a fuck. The 1% all trembled when they took away the trough. When Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. The UK called them terrorists, said we cannot let this stand. Who do these peacenik blondes think they are in Iceland? They threatened isolation, an economy in flames. But the Icelanders said sorry, but the banks can settle their own claims. Though that might be harder for them now that they're under house arrest. Or else they fled the country as they were most unwelcome guests. And now Reykjavik's recovery just makes a fat cat sputter and cough. Since Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. If you haven't heard of this example, perhaps there's a reason why the owners of the world don't want this kind of shit to fly. They say we all must pay up in this shakedown by the mob if we can't afford to pay the rent cause we don't have a job. They say it's not their problem if we're forever shackled by their debt. We must save the 1% from the fate they should have met. But there is an alternative, though it makes the fat cat scoff. That Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers to fuck off. When Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers. Iceland told the bankers to fuck off.
And it was in that same year, 2008, that Lukanikos the riot dog became the most well-known dog in all of Europe, and I would say, and it was certainly in 2008 that he hit the headlines and became a widely known and loved or hated phenomenon. in Greece and throughout Europe and the world.
Lots of folks are revolting. They've had enough of this shit. The rich are getting richer. They're saying that's it. But with Luke it's different, that's clear. As he emerges from the fog, let's hear it for Lucanicos, the riot dog. It's a fight between people, but he is no pawn. He knows exactly which side he's on. In the machine of capital, he is no cog. Let's hear it for Lucanicos, the riot dog. He barks at the cops, and he has no fear. He stands his ground when the batons are near. He's got a fan page on Facebook, but he's got no time for a blog. Let's hear it for Lucanicos, the riot dog. When a smoke bomb comes towards him, he kicks it back at the fuzz. No, he acts a bit different than a normal dog does. No time to lie in the sun or go swim in the bog. Let's hear it for Lucanicos, the riot dog. Let's hear it for Lucanicos, the riot dog.
And I was planning on just doing one more for this segment, for this fifth radio show in this series of 7, and the next one will be not next week, because I'll be doing a tour up in British Columbia next week for anybody out there in Western Canada, and then the week after, the Sunday after next, I'll be back with the 7th or the 6th of the 7 history and song broadcasts, which will cover 2009 through 2010 through 12 basically, and then the 7th on December 29th will be on 2013, a sort of year in review kind of thing. And thank you all out there who have been listening, and especially to all of you in the very international chat room. It has been a great pleasure, and looking forward to seeing some of you, such as Simon in Switzerland and Arthur in Scotland in the near future in Europe in the spring. And of course, those of you in Australia and Hong Kong, I hope to see you sometime soon. Don't know when. Germany, Munich there. I don't know if I'll be in Munich, but I'll be in Germany, so hope to see you. And thanks so much for listening. Anybody who wants to support my efforts here on Spreaker and in general is welcome to go to davidrovics.com and click on donate or click on subscribe, or not. Just listen to the show and share it with people if you know other people who might like to hear this stuff. That's the main thing. And I'll close with a song about an event that took place sort of midway through 2009, which was the assassination of Dr. George Tiller.
I woke up this morning and I turned on the news. It was a Sunday morning, they were sitting in the pews. The doctor's wife was in the choir. She was about to sing. She saw it all in front of her, and she heard that awful ring. In the name of God, he held his pistol, pointed at the doctor's head. In the name of God, he pulled the trigger. Now the doctor's lying dead. Dr. Tiller had a family, 3 daughters and a son. 2 girls were both doctors who believed in what he'd done. They knew someone had to do something before they leave this world behind. If it wasn't them, then who would serve the cause of womankind? In the name of God, he held his pistol, pointed at the doctor's head. In the name of God, he pulled the trigger. Now the doctor's lying dead. This is not Afghanistan, it's the heartland, USA, where a girl has to wonder if she'll get acid in her face, where they bomb the women's clinics because the preacher told them to, where the man there on the TV told them that's what they should do. In the name of God, he held his pistol, pointed at the doctor's head. In the name of God, he pulled the trigger. Now the doctor's lying dead. In the name of God. In the name of God.